Hello and welcome to Gettable, AFL.com.au's home of trade, draft, frenzy and contract news. We're here thanks to our good friends at Google. I'm Riley Beveridge. This is Twomey. Cal is back on deck. Welcome back, Cal.
Hello. It's good to be back. Good to be back. You guys did a wonderful job in the last few weeks. Big thanks to Josh for filling my chair as well. Did a fantastic job, yourself and him, over the last 3 weeks. But while I was away walking to the sound of my favourite tunes on some sunny afternoons, more trade landscape has changed.
It certainly has, and it changed in a big way on Monday when you revealed exclusively on AFL.com.au the news that Naziah Wanganeen-Miller is staying at St Kilda for at least the next 2 seasons. Here's the first big domino to fall. Let's bring up the dominoes because we've got all of them here today.
Yep.
Naziah, clearly the big one. The news on Monday that he will be staying at St Kilda until at least 2027.
Well, this is the Naz knock-on effect, isn't it? What happens next after this big, massive re-signing? So nobody knew until Monday lunchtime what Naziah was going to do, but has a massive ripple effect around the competition. He's backed himself to be worth even more at the end of 2027, and in turn given St Kilda 2 years to get going. So huge show of faith from him for the next couple of seasons, and massive for that footy club. But what happens next is what we're interested in, and what the domino effect is. So let's roll the first domino, because the next one, of course, is what happens with Marcus Windhager and who the Saints keep or what they can do at St Kilda after the re-signing of Wanganeen-Milera. As you reported last week, Windhager has keen suitors. There's Melbourne, North Melbourne, Essendon. I'll also have a bit of a watch on the Western Bulldogs as well to see how things pan out on other trades. But in the Windhager chase, what we can say today as well is that the Roos have a 5-year deal in front of him. So my understanding is that it's going to take 4 or 5 years to get this guy out at the very least. So there's a 5-year offer there from North Melbourne in front of Windhager. So that's a significant show of interest in him. The domino effect of Naz staying, though, is that he's extremely tight, of course, with Marcus Windhager. If Naz had gone, if Naz had gone, I think there would have been more of a chance that Windhager would have followed. But the 2-year offer from St Kilda has been there at the moment. Obviously a gap between what he's being offered there and elsewhere. So his decision, I don't think, will be swayed by Wanganeen-Milera, but it is a factor in terms of what his best mate was doing.
Certainly is. The next domino up on the list is Tom De Koning. Now, St Kilda now has 8 years on the table for Tom De Koning. That offer has been increased. The majority of those years worth $1.8 million. I think there's a resignation from Carlton, and there has been right the way through the season that he is gone. He is heading to St Kilda.
Yeah, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday next week, he'll let them know officially that that's the plan for him to head there as a restricted free agent. He plays his 100th game this weekend for Carlton. I think if there wasn't this milestone looming, that there's a fair chance he would have pulled the pin earlier in the season.
Right, okay.
So that would have meant that you protect your body, you work out what's next. But father-son status, we've got to remember as well, he's one of 2 brothers playing at the level. His dad played at the level. You obviously want to tick over that father-son. We'll get to some father-son news later on as well. He's wanted to know what Naz is doing all year. So I think he'd be pretty buoyed and relieved by the news on Monday. There's, of course, Lecalia that they're interested in as well. I think they get him, and Liam Ryan as well. So getting Naziah Wanganeen-Milera signed up was a huge fill-up for them in terms of their attraction pursuit as well.
It's going to have a domino effect for other clubs, Cal, and one of those players involved in that is Cal Archie. He's got some interest from the Crows.
Well, this is what Adelaide does next after missing out on Naziah Wanganeen-Milera. So there's interest there in Cal Archie, who's been pushing for a better deal at Brisbane. Out of contract, of course, open to offers after being a flag hero in last year's grand final. Do the Crows tip into that a little bit harder? Do they go a little bit harder now, having missed out on Wanganeen-Milera this time around? They had held interest in Judd McVie as well, with the Demon Defenders girlfriend partner from South Australia originally, but they had a lot going on that sort of fell by the wayside. You wonder if they try and register that up again and what they do on that front. Of course, he's remaining out of contract at the Demons. Hope he stays there for a couple more years. That's been the sign throughout the season, but yet to sign on of course. So there's that domino for the Crows, but we'll flick it over to the bigger one. He barely fits on this domino. Look at him. He's just squeezed in. Lockie Rand, our director's done a good job of fitting big drapes in there. But what happens with Sam Draper now is that he's still sitting back. He hasn't played for 4 months. And it's like, does the offer increase from Adelaide, knowing that the money that they're going to use on that man at the front there is still available? So they're interested in him. They've been interested in him for a year and a half. We said on the show, on that desk, a year and a half ago that they'd be chasing him really hard, and they have. The side effect, though, is that do they increase the offer, and what does that mean for the compensation pick if he does go there, or what does it mean for the Brisbane offer for him as well?
Yep. And then what about the Port Adelaide flow-on effect from this? Because Zach Butters, I know we've said all year that it was probably going to be 2026 if he does opt to leave, and John Meeson from Capital Sports said that a couple of weeks ago. But clubs did hold out some hope that if they did get Naziah, that Zach Butters could potentially go.
Yeah, I mean, Port were all in. All in on Naziah Wanganeen-Milera and their offers and options that they put to him, showed that. But I've been adamant all year on this show that Port wouldn't move Butters this year. But I did think there was a tiny wrinkle in that if the push comes to shove at the end and Naziah wanted to go to Port and Butters had indicated he wasn't going to sign on beyond 2026, would that open the door? That was certainly the hope of the clubs like Geelong and the Western Bulldogs and Essendon and Hawthorn that are coming hard for him as a pre-agent and then free agent next year. But that's zero chance of happening now. There is no way in the world now that Port could move on Zach Butters. I didn't think there really was to begin with this time around, because the idea was to get him playing together. But now that's not going to happen. There's no reason for him to be moved out the door this time around. And I think they'd probably match next year if it did come to the point where he wanted to leave as a free agent. So the other part of this is everyone says there's more money for Zach Butters. The offer that Port Adelaide put to Zach Butters at the start of this year was a history maker. So that was an 8-year deal worth an extraordinary amount of money that wasn't that much less than what they had on the table for Naziah Wanganeen-Milera. So Zach Butters has been well aware of a very good offer that's been there on the table for him all the way through.
So these are the dominoes. We're just going to kick them over there. Bang. There we go, bang. All the dominoes falling. Right onto you, Cal. All right, let's get back to the desk.
The other part that's interesting out of the domino effect for the $2 million deal, the $2 million deal, I mean, I didn't mention that. It's the first time a player's reached the $2 million mark. Which players around the competition now are going to be worth that and feel like their value is at that level as well, and are going to be worth that deal in the next deals? Like, Nick Dacos is a $2 million player every day of the week.
Yes,
absolutely. Sam Darcy will get the same. So when do those clubs who have got these deals signed on longer term deals maybe adjust those in time as well?
All right, let's get to one of our favourites here on Gettable. It is Quick Fix. We're going to be buzzing through some quick fixes from around the competition. Let's start with Harley. Read all about it. Is the Harley call close, Kel?
Oh, sorry about that. What was the question?
Is the Harley call close?
Yes. Well, look, this Harley Reed decision has never been obvious, and it's taken some time, and this is still the case now. So it's been moving in the right direction for the Eagles. We revealed last month the offer put to West Coast around a 2-year deal plus a 9-year option for Reed, so that 11-year mega deal. I don't see the player option deals being where this is likely to land, though, if Reed signs an extension soon. So I think the standard fare short or medium term deals would be the most likely option now around where this sits for Harley Reed and the HR department, as I call his team, his management and family, obviously, as part of this decision-making process that he's going through. So discussions have been in recent times around that 2, 3 and 5 year deals. So 5 years would take him through to free agency. I think the 2 or 3 year options now are the more likely scenarios, and without that sort of mega options attached. So it's a big decision for him. We know that. He takes his time to work through big decisions, as he should. He's a young person in a stage of his life where it takes some time to make these calls. So it could happen quickly. It could continue to be decided upon over coming days and weeks. But the club desperately wants to sign him. Obviously, the coach, Andrew McCall, has built a really strong relationship with him and trusts him, and it's vice versa. And he's important in what West Coast want to do in terms of their attraction. So, yeah, we wait to see where this goes next.
Speaking of West Coast, new Eagle, #1 contender, stars in the VFL, Cal.
Yeah, he did, absolutely. Cooper Duff-Tytler debuted for the Bombers VFL side on the weekend. He kicked 3 goals, 2 from 13 disposals, a few hit-outs as well. Looked really composed and comfortable in the role at the level. We see one of his goals here. He just knows what he's doing.
Gets the 50-metre penalty to help as well.
Absolutely.
Runs in. Fan behind the goal loves it. Was that you, Kel? Were you there?
I think he enjoyed this one as well, actually. I did. He looks good in the red and the black, though, doesn't he? There he goes. Look at this. Behind the goal is a bit of a celebration. I didn't think I'd be on camera.
Good on him.
There he is. He rides it home, the fan behind the goals there. I think with West Coast now expected to hold pick 1 and pick 2 when Oscar Allen goes to Brisbane as a free agent, Duff-Tytler and Dersma, for me, is firming as the double at the top of the draft. So I'm calling them Duffma. But just on Duff-Tytler, the ruck rules potentially changing to open up, or maybe even losing the sub as well to have a second ruckman on the bench has added to his stocks, I think. So it's going to be in his favour, that lack of wrestling. So that's not the type of ruckman he's going to be, but there's a lot of exciting parts to his game.
Hey, just in that St Kilda Sandringham game, I want to touch on Kai Fincher as well. St Kilda NGA prospect. We spoke about the Saints earlier on in the show. 26 disposals, 5 marks, 6 tackles and 4 clearances. Won the best on ground award. He's only played through the midfield at school level throughout this year. So for him to step into the midfield at a VFL level and put in a performance like this, I think really impressed clubs. Now, he didn't get a national combine invite, but I still think clubs have him in that sort of top 30-ish range. I just think that when a player is tied to a club through its academy, sometimes clubs opt to, when they're sending out these invites, to look at players that will be eligible to them. And I think a lot of clubs now think that he is certainly going to St Kilda as an NGA prospect. So I'd expect Kai Fincher, especially given his performance on the weekend, to be right in that top 30 mix.
Alrighty, Bombs away. Essendon's big contract decisions, and there are many coming at the Bombers. So the Bombers have 15 out-of-contract players still, by virtue of their injuries and the mid-season draft haul stocking up their lists. A lot of uncertainty within the players there about who stays, who goes, and what happens. So some updates. Vigo Visentini will sign a 2-year deal to remain at the Bombers until the end of 2027. I think we all liked what we saw from Vigo's first couple of games playing in the ruck earlier this year. So he will sign and stay as part of that 5 ruckmen on the list who have been out of contract, but he will be locked in on that deal. Sam Draper, of course, as we just spoke about, remains torn about what to do. But the feel is more likely to leave, but Essendon certainly hasn't given up on keeping him. 4 years plus a trigger for a 5th. Todd Goldstein, a decision coming for him at the end of the season, whether he goes on. There's been no offer yet for Jackson Pryor or Ben Hobbs. Hobbs, of course, is a first-round pick in 2021, played 18 games this year. Clubs are aware he hasn't received an offer and he's definitely gettable. I'm not sure if he gets a new deal at the Bombers or not. I think that's still to be worked out in coming weeks. But I think that's very much like a couple of players, a couple of midfielders there. It's very uncertain on what the future holds for these guys. So it's not a good time to be out of contract at the Bombers because there are so many list changes that have to happen. And the way their tools, in particular from the mid-season draft, have come on has been pretty exciting in different patches. So that's the update there. Also, one more player out of contract at the Bombers is Dylan Shield, who's out of contract, of course, coming into the end of that mega deal that he signed after coming from the Giants. Can say that it's been mutually agreed that he won't be at Essendon next year. So there's been those mature conversations around the way in recent weeks and months around the fact that the player and the club, and there won't be a deal there for him. I think if there was an offer for him, I'm not sure he'd actually take it at the Bombers. He's probably ready for that fresh change, and he'd love to play on and go elsewhere, but I think he's realistic as well that opportunities at 32 are hard to come by. So that's a mutual call, but he's realistic, and that's the way things sit for Dylan Shield.
Luhrmann the Wall, another one I've been impressed with the last couple of weeks, yet to be offered a deal at Essendon. Rising Star, Cal, who gets our votes?
Well, before we get to that, I just want to flash back. Actually, I might just get up because I'm just going to go on a victory lap. I'm just going to walk around a victory lap. This is what I said about Murphy Reed last year.
Who would your steal of the draft be?
I thought Freo did wonderfully well to get Murphy Reed at pick 17. I think this guy has creative instincts that no one else inside that first round has. I think his ball use is really good, and we'll see him prove a few wrong, I reckon, when he gets out there next year and shows what he can do in that Dockers midfield. Pick 17, a great result for the Dockers, and he'll come in and add some immediate class.
Go again, go another victory lap.
So, I mean, what can you say? You don't always get them right. You don't always get them right, but I got that one right. Which leads me to my votes for the Rising Star. So I'm going to go, put it on the drum roll. I don't know if it's ready, but put on the drum roll. 5 votes for Murphy Reed. I think his impact across the year for Fremantle has been immense. I've got Dan Curtin with 4 votes, Levi Ashcroft at 3, Archie Roberts at 2. He's been fantastic, real breakout year, a contract extension, well deserved for him, and 1 vote for Harvey Langford as well. But for the difference for me in between Reed and Curtin, I just think Curtin's second half of the year has been incredible too, but I think across the season, Reed's been so consistent, classy, competitive, collected. He's more creative than Picasso. He absolutely changes games and has changed that Fremantle forward line. So for me, it's Murphy Reed as the Rising Star this year. Played every game, 22 goals, 19 goal assists, the most at Fremantle. Tick, tick, tick.
Yep, I'm similar to you, Cal. I've got Murphy Reed 5. I can't believe there's been as much discussion as there has been around this. I think he's far and away the rising star winner this year. I've got Dan Curtin with 4 votes, Levi Ashcroft with 3, Harvey Langford with 2. My only change is I've got Connor O'Sullivan in there ahead of Archie Roberts. I think he's just been fantastic behind the ball, had such an impact in that Geelong side. And just when you're talking about draft steals, revisiting last year's draft, just a shout out, I haven't got him in the votes, but Luke Traynor to play 20 games this year, having slipped to pick 21 last year. There was times last year when he was considered a likely top 5 pick. He slipped down the draft on the night, but he's had such a good year for Richmond. 43 of the 71 players picked in the national draft have debuted this year, Cal, which seems high.
It's a good draft. It was a very good draft, and my man Murph, get him up there on Brownlow night.
All right, set your engines. The 2027 countdown has begun, and yes, it has, because Naziah Wanganeen-Miller going through until 2027 means that I think that could be the biggest trade period in history, Cal, when 2027 rolls around. So we know that Naziah Wanganeen-Miller flirted with leaving St Kilda this year. Chad Warner and Matt Rowell also signed 2-year deals through till 2027. They will be free agents in that year. They flirted with potentially leaving their football clubs. Miles Bergman, another one. Fair to say he considered his options this year. He's coming out of contract in 2027. But then there's Will Day, there's Tom Green, there's Logan Morris, there's Sam DeConing, Kai Lohman, Sam Flanders, Mitch Georgiades, Bo McCreary. So many players. You add Tasmania into the mix. It's going to be their first trade period coming in. Everyone who's uncontracted is going to be a free agent from them. You've got more players who are potentially coming out in 28, considering their options of going to Tasmania. It's going to inflate the market. It's going to be the biggest trade period yet.
And one more thing as well, there's a new CBA at the end of 2027
Exactly,
as well.
The money is going to go through
money. And anyone who says that deal's not going to get bigger, it'll get better. The players will get paid more.
All right, D. Lemmer. Should the new Melbourne coach rebuild or top up?
Well, there's a strong argument to say that a new coach with Clayton Oliver and Christian Petrarca will come in and give them the refresh that they need. I think there may be a stronger argument to say the new coach comes in and says, well, does Christian Petrarca want to be here? Does Clayton Oliver want to be here? And is this the right time to refresh the list on the footy club? And is it the right time, particularly with Petrarca, for the player and the club to move in different directions? Now, only the footy club itself in Melbourne and only the potential coach himself will know what the best answer to that is and what the solution is. But we've seen his midfield minutes and time change a bit in recent times. At the end of this season, they've opted for some youth in those big positions. So they're in the market for players, of course. The Demons, as we spoke about before, with Windhager amongst others. Petrarca, for me, still carries really good value and he's a champion of that football club. That'll never, ever change. I just wonder if now, what the footy club wants to do in terms of its coaching appointment and how the coaches address their situation with the board in their interviews. What do they say around what's your view on whether we hold these guys or whether we move them? Because that's going to be massive. All
right, let's get to another one of our favourites. It's Kaleidoscope.
Kaleidoscope. Here we are, seeing things through a different lens. I might actually read it through here. All right. We are stuck in a football trading twilight zone. We live in a footy world where players don't tell clubs they are leaving at the end of the year, but really kind of do through not saying anything at all. It is the twilight zone of transparency where it is the kind of mature enough conversations to work through it, but not kind of work through it. And we live in the twilight zone where player wages aren't public, but really they kind of are. He signed for $2 million. He's on 1.5. He's on 1.8. He did 850. If you and I worked hard enough, we could work out pretty much any player's wage. Heck, even the AFL's free agency compensation formula basically tells us what these guys are on. There's so much twilight, I'm expecting to see Robert Pattinson on next year's free agency list. So here's my kaleidoscope for today. Change is coming to contracts in the next CBA, as we just spoke about. The AFL clearly wants to cap long-term deals from 2027 onwards, but as part of the next CBA, there should be another change. Players who are on $700,000 or more should have their salary public. So there are 120 players in the game last year on more than $700,000. Right now it would be 150 this year. That is well above the player payments average and would get everyone a proper clear glimpse into the best paid players and the realities of what that looks like. It also respects those who are in the bottom 80 or 75% who don't need their salaries publicly discussed and debated. So I think this has to come in. We're nearly there already. We're just tiptoeing around it. Just bring it in. And change that.
Do you worry, though, a little bit that the ones that aren't named in that list are going to create more of a talking point than the ones that are?
Well, maybe some of those ones who aren't should be in there.
Yeah, I agree. All right, great stuff from you, Cal. All right, now, Cal, Google Gemini is our personal AI assistant and a great help for sharing ideas and answering questions. The draft question you've thrown at Gemini is tough. Let's see how it went.
Hi Google Gemini, who do you think is the best AFL recruiter of all time?
That's a tough one. There have been some incredible recruiters over the years. Names like Noel Judkins, who spent decades with Essendon, Collingwood and Richmond, and Stephen Wells from Geelong, who has an amazing track record of finding top talent. Who do you think deserves the title?
I think Stephen Wells would be right up there. He's been awesome at Geelong, hasn't he?
Stephen Wells is definitely a strong contender. His track record at Geelong is incredible. He's got a knack for finding those hidden gems in the draft. Do you think there's anyone else who comes close to his level of talent scouting?
Oh, there's so many around the competition and so many of them are friends of the Gettable family as well. So thanks for your help, Google Gemini. We appreciate it.
What a huge rap for Wellesley from Google Gemini.
Gemini's all over it.
It certainly...
Wellesley's cracked the AI code.
He certainly has. All right. Before we get to Askable, let's get to our cover story. And it is this week revolving around the father-son rules. And is father-son done, Cal?
Look at that photo from 2021. Jackson Archer and Glenn, the Darcys, and of course, my man Nick with Pete. So is father-son done? Clubs are fearing more big changes coming to the bidding system. And let's get into that because one of the big questions we got from Askable this week was, of course, from Aaron.
Let's bring up Askable. Here we go. Bang, there we go. Aaron's Askable. And Aaron wants to know...
A little bit out of touch.
Aaron wants to know what changes will happen with the father-son rule because it is a massive talking point at the moment.
Well, I spoke to several clubs who were a part of the AFL's football managers meeting on Monday, and they all left with the view that the league very much has significant change on its mind with regards to the bidding system. As part of that, of course, the father-son and academy system. So while clubs in some quarters are pushing for this, we know St Kilda, we know Geelong have raised this, the majority are fearful that the AFL is going to be bringing in a draft lockout, whether it's the first 5 picks, first 10 picks, or the first round, where there is a protected zone that the bids can't be matched on those father-sons, academy and NGA players. So, and the feeling that the clubs took from Monday's meeting as well is that the league is keen to get the ball rolling on this pretty soon, like potentially even as soon as next year. So I think there's going to be some significant backlash to this in this potential draft lockout, and clubs will rally against that. So let's look at a couple that will. I mean, we just spoke about Cody Walker in recent weeks and how good he's been. So he's eligible, of course, for next year, as he reported a few weeks ago, has committed to Carlton as a father-sons. He's coming through next year. What does it mean for Carlton and what they do with him, who's a star on the rise? This guy's been tied to them forever. There's him. Then the next year, of course, there's Kobe Buick at the Bombers, who we've seen dominate for Vic Metro's under-16 side. He's been terrific at that level. The Bombers have been eyeing him as a prospect for about 6 or 7 years, so there's that one. And then Louis Salopek, who played in that game as well, he's tied to Port Adelaide, the son of Stephen. There's obviously stacks of academy and NGA players tied to clubs as well. There's Buick playing for the Calder Cannons too. But so this is not just about these 2 or 3 clubs, but it's about into the future too. So coming into this year's trade period, the clubs need and want to know, is there going to be changes for next year and the year after? Going that, of course, you can trade 2 picks in advance, 2 years in advance. So you're going to have to know what you have to do in terms of bolstering your pick hand. What are you going to have to do on that front? So clubs have already said that if it goes that way, it could see them wind back their NGA investment, in particular because it disincentivises the value to it. Now, we've heard the AFL say that the father-son rule is here to stay, but I don't know what the romance of the father-son rule would really mean if the better players aren't going to their clubs.
Quickly. Imagine Dacos not at Collingwood, for example.
So I looked at, so let's say post-25 father-sons, as in like post-pick 25 father-sons, over the last 5 years there's been about 12. Cal Shadir's a standout, and Jackson Archer, who's there as well, a later pick as well, are probably the exceptions to the rule. But other than that, not many of those guys actually play, so the carrying on of the legacies wouldn't be there. So the AFL has a lot to weigh up. Personally, my solution would be lose the discount in the first round for these clubs, or limit it to 1 player per club per year, or ensure if the club wants to have a first-round pick tied to them, that they have to keep a first-round pick to match it. So that's some of my solutions. A lot's on the table, but certainly I'm just saying what the feel was out of the club meeting on Monday. That was the sense.
In my view, I think it's got to be all or nothing. You've got to have access to them right throughout the draft, or you've got to have no access to them whatsoever. It doesn't make sense from 25 onwards. And in my view, the compromised nature of the draft thing is a cop-out. We spoke about this last week, but look at Adelaide. 2020, they were right at the bottom of the ladder. Within 5 years, they're a game clear on top. They haven't had any NGA assistance. The only father-son they've had is Max Michelini. It is possible to rebuild through this nature of the draft. That's just the way I look at it. Another father son, of course, that is now tied is Kalani White, as he reported on AFL.com.au on Tuesday night. He is now committed to Melbourne. Of course, he had that decision to make with Melbourne and Gold Coast. Rowena wants to know, has the AFL decided on the new NGA zones yet? Really following a theme here.
Well, this is linked. They have decided, but haven't announced it yet. Spoke to the commission a couple of weeks ago, but obviously nothing's come around that. The clubs don't know yet what zones they're going to have as part of this reallocation. The big watch is on what North Melbourne get, having lost Tasmania, what they get and how that sort of shoehorns them into Victoria. So that's a big one. Just on the NGAs as well. And this, look, if the changes go through, this might not even matter because this player, though, Zemmer's Pilot, I just want to bring his name up, which is a brilliant name. He kicked 9 goals for South Adelaide's under-16s team on the weekend. He's tied to Port Adelaide for 2027. He's absolutely flying at the moment. He propelled them to a big win. He took flight and absolutely dominated. He's a key forward who is tied to their NGA. Could have kicked 10 too after missing a couple late in the game. 27 disposals, 6 tackles, 7 marks. He's agile, he leaps, he always lands safely. It was good to see him absolutely in full flight. So he's cleared for takeoff. He's on the runway for a fantastic AFL career and we can't wait to see him really get that ground control underway.
We just don't know where he'll be playing. That's the only thing. All right, Jimmy wants to know, where will Liam Ryan be in 2026?
I think St Kilda's firming, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Essendon have been in the mix, but as he said, I think St Kilda. It'll be interesting to see what a trade looks like there, given he is contracted. Harry wants to know, is there any chance Hawthorn holds its first draft pick? That's currently at number 7, courtesy of Carlton.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Butters stays, they're obviously in for there. What happens if Harley stays, then that's obviously, they've been right in there. I stand by obsessed. Petrarca, I think, would be a good fit. Yeah, that's a possibility, but would they use their first pick on that? Would pick 7 be that? Don't know. 30. Sam Walsh doesn't move this year. Is it a net gain if they don't land a big mid and lose James Warple as a free agent?
Is it a net gain?
Well,
you are losing.
Yeah. You're losing, aren't you? He sounds on his way, doesn't he, to the Cats. And the Cats are into the same players. And then there's the Charlie Kerner consideration for how hard they go there. Charlie, Harley and the boy from Darley.
All right, finally, rounding us out, Nick wants to know, where is Noah Hibbins-Hargraves firming to be picked?
Big game from him on the weekend.
Massive.
Exciting, playing for the Dandenong Stingrays. Kicked 5 goals from 29 disposals, 5 inside 50s. He's a talent. He's shown that for big country as well this year. So he was really, really good. I think somewhere around that sort of 12 to 20 range, but clubs have some different views on if he's at the 12 bit or the 20 plus bit, but certainly really highly talented. If he finishes with a couple more games like that, then he'll go very, very well. Hey, did you know it's 8 weeks today?
8 weeks today?
8 weeks today until the trade deadline day.
Oh.
So that's 56 days away, which means it's about 72 days until Oasis is back in Australia.
Where'd you get that hat from?
Where'd you get that hat from? And I get to see Oasis.
Where'd you get that hat from?
Again.
All right, brilliant from you, Cal. I've got a couple of references in as well. We love that. Keep clicking back to afl.com.au. Inside Trading live on Wednesday night, and we'll be back same time, same place next week on Gettable.
Maybe.